Well, democracy is not just a journey and not a destination. Some people have argued, and Nigeria, as a case study, has been on this long, bumpy, arduous journey for 22 years, albeit still dubbed a young democracy. Now, the destination, democracy; the journey, democracy; the drivers, leaders, the people, passengers, and all concerned and involved have not worked to make a smooth ride yet. Now, smooth roads, they say, make bad drivers, but have these Nigerian drivers been good despite the rough roads? Up for discourse on The Square today is Nigeria's democracy and its unique issues. And of course, looking at some of those key things that have been put in place to make young Nigerians participate more. I'm Sulai, welcome. Now, let's begin from the roots. In 1960, Nigeria gained independence from Britain, and the feeling of freedom at last was widely celebrated. Now, that feeling of freedom wouldn't last as the military seized government in 1966. Now, barely a year after the military came into power, Nigeria went into a civil war that didn't end until January 1970. Now, the military until 1979, when the head of state, Olusegun Obasanjo, chose to hand it over to a civilian government, which saw Shehu Shagari emerge, but was overthrown in 1983. That's just 4 years after its emergence. Now, 10 years later, in 1993, Nigeria attempted its first real move towards democracy as MKO Abiola, GCFR, that's the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, defeated Bashir Tofa of the National Republican Convention. His mandate, however, was seized and he was never given. To many, that was Nigeria's biggest moment for a real democratic turnaround, and it was a missed opportunity at getting on a better democratic journey. A potpourri of activities followed the annulment of the June 12, 1993 election, and Nigeria was ruled by the military for another 6 years. In 1999, the country went on its first still unbroken democratic expedition, and the issues have persisted, and the journey is still far and is leaving many more generations behind. To some Nigerians, 1999 wasn't the beginning of real democracy per se. They argue that it was just an election meant to take us away from military rule. The question is the role of elections in building good democracies and the specific, unique characteristics that Nigeria's democracy has so far shown. On The Square today, Jeremy, people who played very active roles in Nigeria's first attempts at democracy. With me in the studio live is Kola Abiola. He's the convener, Advocacy for One Nigeria, and of course, One Nigeria Initiative, and of course, son of Chief MKO Abiola. And joining me via Zoom is Dr. Samson Osagie. He is a legal practitioner and a former Nigerian lawmaker. Gentlemen, good to have you on The Square today.
Good evening.
Well, let me quickly start from the studio here. And by the way, perhaps Kola didn't know this. Since we started Village Square almost a year now, right here on Youth Centre, the pandemic came on, and today we're excited to say Kola is the first live guest on the show.
Oh, thank you.
I said I was going to let you know that because you didn't know that. So you're the very first live guest on the show. Once again, thank you for finding time to join us.
Thank you.
Well, now let's start by talking about democracy, which is very key. And I've had conversations with you, and as a young Nigerian, the good thing is that you're in the thick of things. And also, Samson Osagie, also joining us via Zoom, was also a young Nigerian when he also contested election to go into the Nigerian legislature. How was it like when you started listening to great minds? Now, away from your father, because he had a lot of great friends who were politicians. Right. They also influenced your thinking into having your own idea and ideals about democracy.
Thank you. First and foremost, the biggest asset I had was the complete trust in me by my father, first and foremost. And the beauty of that is that at least in the room, there's always one person you can count on to say exactly the way it is. I've never been known to be able to do otherwise. And we have a chemistry that the minute I'm beginning to feel something is wrong, he can tell himself. And that's one. Two, it allowed me to be able to speak honestly with the participants also, because they knew that I wouldn't do otherwise. So that also helped me build confidence, understanding, and yeah, I was young, but I was willing to learn. And they saw that I was not just willing to learn, I was equally committed to the cause. So with that, it attracted a lot of them to my thought process, even if it goes against the norm. And because we came in late, we had to go against the norm in any case.
What do you mean?
We came in late in the game. We only came in after the annulment of generals' primaries. And that was like 3 months or so to JOS, the convention. So I needed to learn fast. I needed to take it on fast. I needed to absorb and listen. And more important, I had to be patient, which is not the biggest virtue I have. But for the cause, I had to be. My initial thing, getting involved, was a little slow. But my father knew that once I commit to it totally. And I would look at things very logically, which is always one of my, I don't know whether it's a drawback or an asset, but I look at things very rigidly. If it's not logical, then it doesn't make sense. And I use that as a means to decide the direction to take. And even when the whole group was against my thought process, he would at least get them to listen. And when they listen, he would say, look, yeah, they will go, what does this guy know about politics? Well, he's young, he doesn't know anything about politics, but everything he seems to be saying seems to make sense. So we need to at least take it on board. And that helped. Now, I was young, I was willing to learn, I was probably naive to the big participants, but that also was an asset. So I didn't come with any baggage. I didn't come with any thought process. I was willing to listen from all and then, distill that and come up with what I think was the way forward. And alhamdulillah, it really made it was a fresh, big difference. And it was an asset I had to my dad in that sense. I had the trust of the participants, I had the trust of his own, and that really helped propel and get things right.
I'll come back to you, and because you asked if that was, some area of strength or drawback, and I'll let you in on that. It looks like strength for some people that have seen what you launched over the weekend, talking about the, Tribe Niger app, because of the song, the theme song. Some trying to also put that with the theme song for Hope 1993 and the part you played in that. Well, we'll get back to that and so that we know how well you've been able to get all of that back again here in 2021. Dr. Osagie, you're one great Nigerian who also was quite young when you came on the political scene, seeing what you did especially in your own state, southwest of Nigeria, Edo State specifically. And for you, tell us how the journey so far, being a lawmaker, someone who started as a grassroots politician, how would you define Nigeria's representative democracy at the moment?
Well, thank you, Suleiman. It's a pleasure being with you at the Village Square, Africa. And I'm also glad to be appearing with Kola Abiola,
Welcome, sir.
Son of the president we never had. For me, participating in the political process after the death of General Sani Abacha was one public responsibility or call to duty that I looked forward to even as a student at the MKO Abiola University later. At the commencement of this republic, particularly from 1997, a lot of people weren't interested in participating in politics. The reason being that a lot of people weren't sure that the military was ever ready to go because of the way and manner Nigerians were treated with a soured meal following the annulment of the June 12, 1993 election. As students, as students then, I participated very actively in mobilizing the student body to vote in that 1993 election. And a good number of Nigerians, the elite, were quite reticent in participating in the process. So, at the time we joined the political process, it was experimental, not quite sure of where it will lead us to. And that saw me winning elections 2 times to the Edo State House Assembly. And I was sworn in once because the first election was completed by the death of General Sani Abacha. And that was the 1997 election, which led to the conclusion of that constitution under General Abacha. Now, fast forward, I can say that our quest for democracy in this country have yielded results, but the people of this country haven't quite benefited as they should benefit from what a civilian democratic governance should give to the people. Because as of today, it is still sad that 22 years after, the elements that make democracy stick, interesting, and beneficial to the people of the country are yet to be fully developed. The democratic institutions are still at best at very rudimentary stage. The processes of election are still a far cry from what it should be. At some point, you discover that previous elections are even better than subsequent elections. So rather than improve, you find situations where we have been working up by the challenges that we face. It is not because those involved in all this process are not interested in developing the system to such an enviable level that it will yield to the Nigerian people what is desirable. But there is a systemic challenge for the Nigerian project, which has emphasized issues that are quite mundane and unhelpful in building a nation founded on the rule of law and developed on the platform of a representative democracy that offers the people hope for greater future while providing immediate benefits in terms of social services, in terms of processes, rules that are transparent and making the people elected accountable. All these elements are still a far cry from what it should be. Today, we are celebrating Democracy Day. And I believe that part of the challenge we have today is because that very free and fair election, which broke down tribal and religious barriers in 1993, was not allowed to survive and offer Nigerians a governance that would, in my opinion, and I think this is also accepted by a good number of people, that would have yielded very positive results in many facets of life. Sometimes I look back at some of the speeches of the presidential candidate of SDP, MKO Abiola, and you see in a man who has a vision for a Nigeria that needs to get out of the woods. So, speaking strictly about the journey of representative democracy, we are still a far cry from where we should be. A child who is 22 years old is quite mature, and even though he's still young, but there are things you expect of him or her that who accord with the level and the age that he has attained.
Okay, Dr. Osagie, I'll come back to you. I think you've raised a very important point, and it has to do with ethnic politics. And let me quickly, I'll come back to you so that we can actually space it more, because you drew an analogy, to what obtained leading up to that 1993 election. Let me quickly come back to Kola. You're an advocate of one Nigeria. Listening to Dr. Osagie, he's raised something very key. And for followers of history, they knew at that point in time, your father's house was a melting point for all Nigerians. And I know for a fact you also met Alhaji Yaradua and the senior Yaradua. And these are people, irrespective of where they're from, they had this robust conversation about national matters. It was always about Nigeria. And now today, you're leading what people have called a one Nigeria tribe, called Tribe Nigeria. What informed all of this? Because Samson has said something very key about that election. It was an election devoid of tribalism, devoid of religion, making us ask the question, can Nigeria ever come back as a united country or nation?
Well, we're still a united country or nation. I come from a pedigree that does not know otherwise. I come from a pedigree over the years that is blind to where you are or your religion, in recruitment, in employment, in name it. Of all the companies we've had in the past, we've had offices in every state capital in this country. We've invested across the length and breadth of Nigeria. It doesn't really care who you are, where you're from. One of the biggest things I grew up doing is a commitment for my father to attend weddings, burials, engagements, personal things of staff, irrespective of where they come from in Nigeria. So we could fly to Akwa Ibom. We get there late, but we will be there. If it's just for 2 minutes, we'll be there and we'll come back. But we will establish presence. That is the pedigree I come from. And so I don't know why anyone should be surprised that Kola is following in that footsteps. It's what I know, it's what I've understood is the norm. I don't see anything else as a norm. Now, how do I bring that norm to the new age? And that's what I'm trying to do with this.
To the new age?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with this platform. How do I bring it to the present, to understand that that's exactly how it was in the past? It didn't start off not being that way in the past, and we're not just trying to keep it together in the present. No. What it was in the past was we were blind. We had a system that encouraged us. I mean, the whole NYSC thing was along that direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let them know that, look, we used to be our neighbors' keepers. We used to be our friends. We walked across the aisle and not care who we are. It's beginning to appear as if that wasn't the norm all along. Maybe it was shaky. Maybe the foundations were eroded by economics and greed. Maybe it's been eroded by bad governance. And when I say bad governance, I don't mean just the center, even at the state levels, even at the legislative levels, right? So maybe that's what is the problem, not necessarily us as the common Nigerian. And that is what I'm hoping that platform will do to the present. Now, that present 22 years ago, like Samson
Osagie.
Mr. Osagie said, they're mature, but they're mature not understanding the history of Nigeria, not understanding that, look, everything is not a feel good factor, right? Your future, your progress, you must be concerned about what happens to Nigeria. So because we're drifting apart now, we're not talking to each other, we create this bubble of our own, and we begin to forget that, look, you know what? The guy next door, I never knew where he came from before. Why is it so important today? Why do I have to be concerned about that today? And with this, we begin to talk. We begin to see that, yes, we come from different backgrounds. We have different nuances. Sokoto doesn't have the same problem with Lagos. But across the board, there is some common thread that keeps us, that still impacts on our lives. My father would say, whatever affects the nose will affect the face. You just can't. If I chop off your nose, your face is going to be disfigured. So it's part of a united unit. And we have to keep it that way. And this is my way of doing that. That's number one. Number two, if you can come together and understand that you have common interest, which is Nigeria, you will be able to collectively apply the strength that comes from that. You'll be able to collectively begin to tell yourselves, okay, how do I put that strength to use to impact the country? How do I use it to even use that strength to impact even my little localities, my local government? Because you'll be surprised that there are a lot more of you. You just don't know each other. But you'll be surprised that, look, in my polling area, I have a lot more of me that think the same. So when I bring you together on that platform, I'm hoping that you would, from the platform, know that, you know what, you actually have 100 tribe members in your local government, for example, that you can talk to, that you have like issues, and you've discussed, and you've seen things probably a little differently. And like I said, let us just step out of that feel-good thing that we can only do things in that bubble and relate to our communities. And then you begin to organize yourselves and see what impact you can make.
Because one key thing you said now is that we're not talking with each other.
We're not.
And we should be having that kind of civil conversation, especially within our catchment area. I come back to you, Samson Osagie. You know, in your opening, you said something about your education. You schooled in the southwest of Nigeria, specifically in Ife. And does it now worry you that the issue of, destabilization that is almost being banded, especially by politicians and leaders in Nigeria, when we talk about democracy, just might threaten the good you enjoyed as a student who left your home state in the old Bendel state to another state seeking education? How can we, as Kola said, how can we bring back the good old times? Because when we talk about democracy, it's strictly about the people.
Exactly.
Yes, thank you very much again, Suleiman. And I think this should form the core of this discussion. What do we do to get this done right and have an atmosphere that brings back the memories of what we enjoyed in our time and what our predecessors enjoyed in our time? Because it is quite disturbing now that children go to school and they are under threat of being kidnapped. And those wearing the challenges we face in our time. We face challenges of poor infrastructure in the educational system and other problems. But the issue of security threatening everybody now is quite challenging, even in institutions. And I think that for me, every leader should take responsibility. Now, that's where I agree with Kola that, taking responsibility and ensuring good governance. It's not the responsibility of the president, because the president has a role, his own role under the Constitution. The governor of the state has a role. The local government chairman has his role. But it will appear that governance is breaking down, and those who are charged with this responsibility at the micro level are unable to discharge effectively their responsibilities for the benefit of the people. Then it means that something has to be done. A surgical operation needs to be done on the governance system and, if possible, on the structure of governance in order for us to understand and create a more viable governance architecture that takes responsibility and that are accountable. Because if we don't do that, we are going to be faced with a situation where those who are taking it upon themselves, to destabilize the country and destabilize the society, will begin to grow more wings, get bolder, get more encouraged by the mere ineffectiveness of governance at local level, and then take over the system. And when that happens, you call it a situation of anomaly, a situation of anarchy, lawlessness, and then it is not going to be funny at all. So I want to say that the governance architecture at the various levels needs to be reworked. In fact, Nigeria as a whole needs to be reworked to make it much more effective, to make it much more able to deliver service that will enhance the living conditions of the people. Because governance exists at any level, not just at the federal level, for the protection of life and property, and to guarantee the welfare of the citizens. So if we are no longer able to do that at every level as we speak and in every arm of government, there is something is wrong. It is the responsibility of leaders to decide what to do in order to reject this system and make it workable.
Well, I think, Samson Osagie, let me quickly bring this to you before I come back to the studios to Kola. And, you've been there as a lawmaker who have represented your people. What role, now you're talking about different roles, because you mentioned various roles that every Nigerian should be playing. Sadly, almost everyone looks to the center when they talk about some anomaly or some gaps in governance. What roles do you think the people should also play, talking about your constituents, in strengthening our democratic values?
Well, under the current situation, members of the constituents are helpless, or members of the constituency are helpless. You should be asking for what role should representatives of the constituency be doing, because they are the ones that have the responsibility, to use the instrumentality of lawmaking and representation to bring about positive changes. I can imagine that under this arrangement, the legislature ought and should be on top of their game in order to get the executive to implement policies that are responsive, to the issues of the moment. Because those in the constituencies are waiting for people who are representing them to provide that environment for them to guarantee their safety, to guarantee their welfare. So when those with that responsibility are not forthcoming with results, then there is a problem. So I want to suggest that representatives of the various constituencies who congregate and form the legislature must decisively embark on measures to get the executive to implement policies, programs, laws that are in place in order to ensure that we have this evidence of democracy that we are talking about. I do not expect, for instance, the legislature to be a rubber stamp under the kind of system that we currently have, because the country is drifting. So I expect, for instance, a legislature that will tackle the executive on some major issues of policy that affect the people in such a way that, regardless of what the executive stands for, there will be a consensus through dialogue and negotiation and, of course, consultation that will bring about direct policy that will change the kind of system that we're in. That is the only way members of the constituency can have results. On their own, they need as much as possible to ensure that they are vigilant, because the price of liberty is perpetual vigilance. And under the kind of arrangement that we have, if you are not vigilant and you are careless, then sometimes you can cause your own challenge, in the midst of insecurity that pervades the situation. But
we'll take a moment, Dr. Osagie. We'll take a moment. We'll stretch it. When we come back, we'll stretch it, and I also want to dig in deep to look at that initiative of Kola, which has to do with bringing Nigeria and Nigerians together. And we also understand that he's also been able to convoke some, semblance of what you're talking about, bringing Nigerians together, so that they can also be asking questions of those who are representing them. That will be when we return here on VSA. Join us again. Well, good to have you again, knowing full well that Africa and Nigerians are staying on the program here, VSA. And of course, one key thing which was also raised here by Kola, he did say Nigeria is still together. And as you can see, Nigeria is fighting in its current state to stay united. Foremost leaders have said the country is better together, but as it struggles to be a nation, the message is laboring to sink. Now, calls for secession have been rife. Insecurity has been an issue for more than a decade. And the state of the Nigerian people, many say, isn't a good market for its democracy. But the difficulties being faced, however, are not unique to Nigeria, as many countries of the world have been through similar journeys. Many say Nigeria is not a failed state, but has failed to build its democracy 22 years after. So I still have Samson Osagie with me via Zoom. He's a Nigerian former lawmaker, and Kola Abiola, who is the convener of Advocacy for One Nigeria initiative, and of course, son of the winner of that 1993 election in Nigeria, Chief MKO Abiola, GCFR. Quickly, before we went on that break, Kola, you listened to Samson Osagie talking about, the way forward. Now, we're talking about the way forward in Nigeria's democracy in this last half of our conversation here on the square. Now, let's talk about the One Nigeria initiative. You have an app, and I've gone through the app on my phone as well, Tribe Niger. Some of the key things Samson has highlighted before we went on that break, are they also things that resonate with you? Or now, you talked about the modern day Nigeria.
Yes, they do. They do, and he's absolutely right. But what his comments are the dream. That's the dream we want. That's the ideal situation we want. How do we get to that? Do we get a situation that creates chaos to get to it, or we have one that slowly builds the ground up to make that change and force the results and that dream to happen? And what I hope and intend to do with this app is to not create chaos. Let's understand each other first. Let us come together. Let's match our numbers. Let's know the numbers we have. 51% of our voting INEC registered numbers are demographics of 18 to, I think it's 35, I think. That's an enormous amount of number. That's a number that spends 5 billion, 20 million of them, 5 billion on Big Brother. That's the number of them that even the losers, they come together as fans, donate to those guys. What I'm saying is that let's move away from the feel-good factor. Let us apply that same tenacity and energy to something that counts and would impact our lives. I want to bring that from entertainment to feel-good factor. Yes, their votes counted on that, but that votes that counted, right, doesn't quite impact on their lives. They make them feel good, but I want them to see that they can apply those same things to change the trajectory of Nigeria, to change and force good governance, to change and use that means as a means of electing themselves into office.
More like saying you have the power.
You have the power. It is you. We just need to bring it under an umbrella, appreciate what you have, and hopefully along the way we create fresh set of leaders. This app has enough AI in there to track everybody on the app. The more you participate, the more your suggestions are good. That's why I said it's an app around chatting around the issues and finding solutions to the issues. The more solutions we get, it tracks the participants. And you go from the more you're active you are, the more your ideas are adopted as a possible solution by the community. You get bumped up to bronze, you get to a silver, to a gold, and ultimately to a diamond. We would use that to show them that you can raise your own leadership. You can raise at least people that you can trust. You've seen the antecedents online. You don't have to know anybody. You don't have to know me. You don't have to know anyone. Just create from that community. Create your own sets of leaders. The system itself will help you. The AI will help you. Will map everybody. And take you all the way to the top. And then you can, amongst yourself, decide, you know what? Let us give them a chance at it. And this app will give you a chance at it. It will give you a chance at it. You all know the solutions. You know what to expect from them. If they fail, you know how to deal with them because they're your platform. If they go there and perform, yeah. It's like I explained to someone, I'm not in the business of trying to help anybody elect his own person. No, his own leaders. The leader in your community may be an illiterate, but he's doing things in your community and you know him. You've seen his impact to your community there.
Will this take some of the worries? Because we've started this conversation, that's the second week running. We started looking at Nigeria's democracy, right. Ideally on village squares to look at issues across the continent. Yeah. But we've taken 2 weeks talking about Nigeria, and some of the concerns of these people is the issue of handpicking people to represent them. We'll bring Samson later on to tell us how those things. So can this also help, in bringing up genuine persons who have the right credentials to represent his or her people? You create your thoughts, your commitment on the platform. The AI will track you, how active you are. I mean, we have a suggestion board. We put a topic in there. We debate it. We come up with solutions. We are one of the very few apps that still have a yes or a thumbs up and a thumbs down. So if they don't like your idea, they vote it down. So the more thumbs up you get, the more you move up on the leaderboard. The same thing in so many other aspects. It maps everybody. And with that, you begin to create leaders of your own. And you know what you talk about Nigeria, it's applicable across Africa, any country. The same thought process will work anywhere. You just have to give people the right to feel inclusive. And I hope with this, we will all be inclusive in the process. Don't be so distant from it. Don't let people who have no stake in your communities to decide. People who feel they got their tickets by buying their tickets obviously don't feel committed to the community itself because you didn't go out there and put your own person against them. The system, the way it is now, does not allow you to do that. As long as you're using delegate election, it's a fraud. It's a pure fraud because it's a cocoon, and somebody is pulling the strings of those delegates. Now, are you worried are you worried? Because it looks so beautiful and it's something that will interest Africans. Now you're talking about technology that can help drive democracy. You know how politics is. In as much as you wouldn't want to be drawn into it, aren't you worried that people would think that this is about you?
Good question. I even wonder why I'm not at times. But it's not about me first. You see, I'm not trying to invent the wheel. The wheel is the wheel. You either have a steel wheel, an aluminum wheel, or alloy wheel, right? But in my own case, because there's a lot of catching up to do, because things are so critical, I want to use a 3D printer to create my own wheel. We are running out of time. This generation is very restive. Is that what they use? Right? Let us show them that, look, it's not all gone. It's not all... I don't want to use it. You need to keep faith with democracy. It's a learning process. Now, you can map your own democratic process. That's what I'm trying to do here. You can map your own and create your own democratic process as you go along. And that way, you will force institutions themselves to strengthen their beat. Now, if at every level, nationwide, down to the ward, that you have a say, why not please take advantage of it? Why not take advantage of it? Like Hamsi said at our lunch, why not win it all? But you have to start somewhere. Somebody has to hold that horn. Enough of you holding the horn at the other down there, and somebody's making the cow. Be in charge of the cow itself. That's what I'm saying. Be in charge of the cow itself. And once you do that, right? Even they themselves will adapt to your game because they know it's not going to be business as usual. You'll be voting out some people. It's like what happened in France, the last election. You have totally new faces in politics. They will stumble, but they will learn. And the system will never go back to what it used to be. And that's what I'm hoping we will do. And you'll be surprised as to the power we have. We won't get it all. No. But at least we need to start a process that allows us not just a foot in the door, but the whole body in the door.
So basically, before let's wrap up on this app so that we can. Yes, I did say I was going to talk more again about 1993, the part you played, because there's something about the app that reminds me of 1993, and that's that particular campaign song. But quickly here, what's the reception like for people who already engage in the app? What's the conversation like?
At least, I think it's ignited the fact that, look, you know what, something is really, it's really possible to have an impact in Nigeria. It's been so positive and so encouraging. Why?
So Nigerians are talking.
Yeah, they're talking. They're talking and they're saying, look, for once, maybe there's this last hope to make a difference. It's the one app that has voice chat, like you will have on the Clubhouse. You have thumbs up, thumbs down. We can actually hold polls, live polls on that app. We put a topic in there and the community would vote. Live polls. That same area, you can have your own, you can create your own dashboard. You can own, it's like CNN, and then you have Amampo, everybody have their own program. By the time you get to a silver gold level, you will have your own board.
I'm looking at you and I'm wondering, I said, did Kola just say something about Clubhouse? You seem to be everywhere.
I have to, look, I'm not new to this. Look, June 1st. Because
I have this conversation sometimes with my own, age group, and some of them don't even know that there is Clubhouse.
Look, June 1st, we launched the largest tech hub in Africa. the largest tech hub in Africa. June 1st.
Let me quickly bring in, apologies, let me quickly bring in Samson Osagie because we lost him for a bit. That was why we had all that time. Good to know you're back quickly here, Dr. Samson Osagie. And we were having this conversation talking about, how well Nigerians can latch on to what exactly is happening within their locality. Take us through some of those, solution-driven policies, or you have till this moment. As I say, once a lawmaker is always a lawmaker, still representing the people. You still find time to engage your people. As I say, politics is local. What are those things you would want to share with young Africans, but in this case, more Nigerians? How can they participate more in the making of a better country?
And I think that Kola's initiative is quite creative, and I see a lot of results coming out from it if our young people take advantage of it to participate in decision-making process, beginning from their immediate community to their locality and, of course, to the larger level. And I think it is his solution is creating a political culture of awareness of the extent of the power that every Nigerian has, to changing and turning things around. And I think it's quite a commendable initiative coming from Kola Abiola. For me, I also think that the political process we currently have is such that a few people pull the string, like he mentioned, and they pull the string and determine who gets what. And then at the end of the day, you'll find a situation where those who are in position of authority are not actually those who decide and take decisions and take responsibility for what they are doing. They have to report to their masters. And I think that shouldn't be. Let our young Nigerians who are educated take advantage of this positive advantage of technology to mobilize themselves, aggregate themselves in the manner that Kola has prescribed, and in some other areas, positively, towards participating in the political process. You will recall that prior to the 2015 election, that was one election where the social media played a very huge role. It brought Nigerians from across the globe together. And I think that subsequent elections have also had the advantage, of having people participate through the social media. I think that social media is a veritable tool for mobilizing young Nigerians to participate in the process of leadership recruitment. Because the leadership recruitment process that we have, both at party level and at the general election level, is fraught with a lot of challenges that does not enable the system to produce the right person who should hold the right position. And at the end of the day, what we find is that square pegs are put in round holes, while round pegs are put in square holes. The result is that we do not have effectiveness in the handling of responsibilities at every level of governance. So my prescription is participation by the young Nigerians who are in their numbers in a position to take advantage of the avalanche of technological devices and technological innovation to participate in the process. And they should not just take advantage of technology. They should be also responsible enough to be law-abiding by participating through registration of voters. You will be shocked at the number of young people who are voting age that does not have a voter card. Because ultimately that's what will entitle you to participate in elections. So you find young people who are not interested. So you call them out for it, they tell you they are not interested in voting. Okay, how much are you going to bring? They should change their worldview. They should understand that collecting money to vote for a particular party or a particular candidate does not add value to the society to which he belongs. You rather do that and mortgage the future of the entire society. So it is to encourage them to participate positively, because the power is in their hands and they are in their number, and they should be able to understand that it is possible for them to congregate and aggregate and be able to change the decision-making process. So I must salute Kola for the initiative he's putting together, and I think it's quite encouraging to push this initiative across various societies. And it will break down a lot of barriers, artificial barriers that we have created for ourselves. Systems that he is proposing. We don't talk about what tribe you belong, it doesn't matter. We don't talk about what religion you choose to hold. It doesn't matter. It talks about issues. What are the issues bedeviling our society? And this kind of arrangement will ensure that the young people are able to, aggregate a consensus of opinion on around issues rather than around mundane matters that does not help anyone. So participation at every level, effective participation by the young people of this country is capable of changing the political culture and then bringing about a change in the positive direction.
Let me close on this, Samson. By the way, quick one here. Let me close on this. You were a student, and you said that you also got a lot of people to vote in that 1993 election. And I said I was also going to ask Kola something about that. I'm sure my producer has that particular, jingle, which is been termed as an evergreen jingle in the political history of Nigeria. And if we can see a clip and a bit of sound of that, yes, let's listen to this.
Now why for this life, oh, now so palava. I tire for this problem, I tire for life, oh. Guinea, no work, no food, no house, no light. This small water, then they bring now so dirty, they pull am. This small money, I they get now so transport, they chop am. School low, now headache, hospital, no work. I tire for life, oh. My brother, waiting you they think, oh. My sister, help don't come. SDP, MKO, Kingibe, action. MKO, Kingibe, SDP, progress. Abiola na the hope, SDP na the party to solve our problem and better our life.
I don't know how it works for you. It does this thing for me, some goosebumps, and I still smile on the face. Quickly, we're closing. What part did you play working with that team?
I was part of it 100%. We worked with your friend, Chief Odusi, and I think we created history with that election. It was perfect. I mean, we thought through the process. We had different campaigns for the delegate elections as opposed to the election proper. And, what we did was to convert the enigma, MKO, from popularity to votes. That's what it's all about. And it was an experience that I've never regretted. I learned so much from it. I'm applying that today. Yes, at a tender age, you create something of that magnitude, and then you get.
The beauty about it is that, that's something that is also been termed an evergreen, song in that Tribe Niger app. So that was why I said, there must be a relationship between what Kola did there and now. I'd like to say thank you. As Larry Diamond says in his book, Ill Winds, that democracy means strong protection for basic liberties such as freedom of the press, association, assembly, belief and religion, the fair treatment of racial and cultural minorities, a robust rule of law in which all citizens are equal under the law and no one is above it. An independent judiciary to uphold that principle, trustworthy law enforcement institutions to check the potential for high government officials to behave corruptly, and a lively civil society made up of independent association social movements. At this point, I'd like to say thank you very much, Dr. Samson Osagie. And of course, my executive producer has asked me to say, Samson Osagie, give us a word quickly if you can do that. When next you're in Lagos, you come live to the show.
Yeah, Sulai, it's a pleasure being part of this discussion. Briefly though, you and I have had a very workable chemistry, and I would like to be in the studio when next I'm in Lagos. So
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I would also like to meet formally Kola Abiola.
Thank you, sir.
We've met on several occasions at the ceremony, but
Thank you.
it's not too close enough for us to meet. So
Pleasure.
I would like to meet you formally.
It's the whole essence of the village square, bringing Africans and Africa together. Thank you very much, Samson Osagie, and many thanks, Kola Abiola, for being such nice company.
Thank you very much.
And the show continues again tomorrow. See you then.